the fringes of...
No.
Well, okay, well, we'll disagree.
I'm not. I've been a journalist for 10 years. I've never been wrong in a story.
What I mean by that...
I've covered major stories.
Let me elaborate, okay? Let me elaborate.
Right.
What I mean by that is that these are people whose political views are always highly critical of the United States government.
Of what about the... Because I'm not always critical of the United States government. I support the United States government in many, many cases.
But
Garland's argued that here's what it is. Most people, if you ask them, are actually critical of U.S. foreign policy. Most people, and you can see that Bernie supporters are critical of U.S. foreign policy. And I think a lot of people, and maybe they're just because they're my viewers, most Americans are critical of U.S. foreign policy, and they're aware that the mainstream media only presents one view. If you look at Syria, if you look at Ukraine, it's a perfect example.
And if you were working for anywhere else, if you were still at Breitbart and hosting a radio show on Breitbart Radio, and all you guys were at an American outlet, more power to you. But the fact is that you and these other radio hosts, whose views are all highly critical, for the most part, of the U.S. government,
let
me finish. Their government is hypocritical and wrong, and bring the government of the United States down to Russia's level. That's what Sputnik and RT do.
How would you rate the media's coverage of the Trump administration so far? Have they been objective and fair, or have they been biased, in your opinion?
I don't think reporting negative stories shows bias. I think reporting negative stories shows they go where the stories lead. You disagree. I know you disagree, but
no, I don't. I don't disagree with what you said. But I think when you report negative, like for instance, on the Charlottesville case, there was a tiki torch march, right? And there were white nationalists who believed that. But on the Ukraine, when in the Ukraine they have the same torch march, and anybody can go Google Ukraine torch march.
I know where you're going with.
But I'm objectively right about it, correct? They have torch marches.
Yes, there was a march in Ukraine with tiki torches.
And you've seen the guy doing the Zig Heil thing from Svoboda, right?
I think I've seen the picture because you probably tweeted it out.
I've tweeted it out many times, but anybody can look it up and find it. I didn't make it up. And McCain and Clinton, who were critical of white nationalists in Charlottesville, were not critical of ethnic nationalists in Ukraine, who they supported and stood on stage with. And what I'm saying is, I'm critical of people who are white nationalists. I don't agree with that. I'm an individualist. I don't agree with black nationalists. I don't agree with ethnic. I'm not an ethnic. I like Bannon.
Right.
I'm not an ethnic nationalist.
Okay, well, I see where you're going with this. The media didn't talk about the nationalists in Ukraine, but they, promoted the hell out of the white nationalists in the U.S. with the tiki torches. It wasn't relevant. It was in Ukraine. We're talking about a story. We're talking about a story.
It is relevant.
No, it's not. We're talking about something that happened in Charlottesville, and we're talking about
which was bad, right?
Yes.
People shouldn't be ethnic nationalists and having a torch march is a thing, but
failure. Ukraine and Ukraine, I don't give a shit if they're white.
I'd love him to make that argument. My point is, it's hypocritical.
I don't think it's hypocritical.
I think
it's realpolitik. I think it's. I know it is. It is, Lee. In Ukraine, they can do what they want. We don't have to like it, but we're going to do what's best for us with our foreign policy. Now, hold on.
We supported the coup, though. The United States government, under the Obama administration, with the help of John McCain, and with the help of Hillary Clinton's foreign policy when she was at the State Department, overthrew the democratically elected government of the Ukraine.
He was a dictator. He was a Putin-backed dictator.
He wasn't. No, actually, he wasn't. You know that Paul Manafort urged Yanukovych to get closer to the EU. Did you know that?
You know, I don't know what Paul Manafort talked with the guy about. I'm sure that.
But that's not the narratives of the main. See, here's what I'm saying, Andrew. I think you're part of. I think you're. And by the way, I want to say this very clearly. Mm-hmm. I think you are unwittingly a part of a dishonest propaganda machine, clearly promoting lies that anybody can objectively look up themselves and figure out what's going on in Ukraine. And I think
you're wittingly one.
No, I
think you're wittingly
name one dishonest thing. See, because propaganda's got to be dishonest.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. That's the definition.
No, it doesn't have to be dishonest. Propaganda does not. Oh, here.
Look it up. Look up define propaganda. I should have Eric do this. Eric's my producer. He should be looking this up for me. Propaganda is information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a political cause. It's got to be.
Yes, and what do you think it is when I'm writing for The Wire at Sputnik, and I'm writing about the situation in Crimea, and I can talk about the 90% of the referendum, but I can't talk about the troops. I can't talk about the our men in the streets.
But here's what.
What do you think that is?
And don't take the.
Now it's not a lie because the 90% is true. 90% is true, but it's.
But please don't take this critically. I think you've demonstrated here that you don't really know very much about the Ukraine. You said that. So I think it's incumbent on you, if you're dealing with that subject. If you go to work for a Russian outlet, you're going to be writing about Ukraine, right? That's just a fact. If you go to work for a Chinese outlet, you're going to be writing about Hong Kong sometimes. So why didn't you take the time to actually learn about these issues
and look at it? Because you think if I looked at it, I'd see it your way. Is that what you're saying? Because I think that's
I actually do. Because here's what it is. There's not. Let's go back to what you said. There's not my way. In fact, anybody can listen to the call where Victoria Nuland, who's a close Clinton confidant, talked about who would be installed after the U.S. government overthrew it. George Soros actively talked to Fareed Zakaria about how he funded stuff. George Soros funded International Renaissance. All of this stuff.
George Soros funds stuff all over the world.
No, he doesn't fund stuff all over the world. He specifically funded it because, as you know, he's very anti-Russian. And
by the way, I get accused of being on the sort.
Much about the Ukraine.
No, I don't know to the same level of detail you do.
Well, allow me to make this point. Ukraine-Russia is like the central issue of contention between the U.S. and Russia. It has been for several years. I would say the hacking.
I think it is now.
It may not be now because the media made it up. But why wouldn't you take the time to research and know these facts down? So if I ask you, do you know who Stepan Bandera is?
I know the name, but I don't keep this stuff in my head the way you do. I don't.
Okay, but don't you think as a professional journalist who's working for a Russian outlet?
I don't work there anymore.
Well, I know, but you were. How long did you work there?
5 months.
Okay. So I would say that it's incumbent on you as a reporter to be knowledgeable about this stuff. I know this stuff because I research it, and you call me obsessed by it. I guess I am, because I try to do my job well. Can you name some? You can't name anything misleading. It's not you can't.
Misleading about what? Sorry, I was putting about what?
You can't. It's not misleading to say 90% of people voted for it. It's misleading.
No, I didn't say it was. No, I said that that's true.
But it's misleading to say it was. It's misleading to say it was at gunpoint. Show me someone with a gun pointed at them. Well, no, at gunpoint means something.
Yes, it means there were armed men in the streets.
No, that's not what it means.
Oh, godly. You know exactly what I mean, and now
I don't actually. I really don't.
What I mean is there are
means someone was pointing guns. There's armed men in the street.
Everyone else I've said that to knows exactly what I mean.
Because they all go along with this false narrative. That's what they do. They go along with the false narrative. And I don't, because I've done the research.
No, they just don't assume I mean that there were people pointing guns at the voters.
There are armed men in the street downstairs right now, correct?
I don't know what's going on downstairs.
If we go across to the Treasury,
yes,
there's dudes with big guns.
Yes, there are.
Okay? Does that mean if there's a vote, that's not at gunpoint? It means there's armed men in the streets here in Washington, D.C.
Lee, it's a term of art, and everyone except you, who I've said that to, knows exactly what I mean, because they're not trying.
No, because they're going along with the narrative.
As are you. You're going along with the narrative.
No, I did the research. It's not just that. The history. What is it? Tell me what it is. Let's try it this way. Tell me what it is about the people of Crimea that would want to go with the people, the ethnic nationalists who committed the coup, who hate them. Because the ethnic nationalists...
Why, and after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, when the Ukrainian Federal Socialist Republic became Ukraine, it stayed part of it. Why does the presence of ethnic Russians there mean that it has to be part of Russia? Because
no, that's not. Because they want it. Do you want the answer? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to finish my sentence.
Okay.
I'm going to ask the question. Because if you now, like I said, if they held a free election without the guys with guns, with international monitors, with that kind of thing, and the vote came out 90%, fine, I'll accept it, and so would the international community. But that's not.
By the way, I don't think they would.
But that's not what happened.
So
if you're saying
what did happen?
If you're saying
what did happen?
Let me finish. If you're saying that the presence of ethnic Russians in Crimea means that it must be part of Russia,
that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
You are. You're saying that they should.
No, I'm not. I'm saying they want to be. And I'm saying,
okay, well, why can't they have an election without the men with guns then? Why did Russia need to have their troops patrolling the streets with guns during this referendum?
Do you know the answer? The answer is because that's what they did.
Doing what?
What do you mean? The Russians...
Were they deployed like that, driving through the streets? No, they weren't.
No, it doesn't make any difference. Why you want to ask why they did that? Because they saw what happened.
Okay, so if our guys in Saudi Arabia started occupying Riyadh, you say, we were already here, that's okay?
No, because that's not what happened. Let's talk about what actually happened. The Euromaidan revolution happened, started in November 2013. In February 2014, after the Euromaidan got violent, with the assistance of the U.S., with the assistance of media outlets like Hormatska TV, which were funded by the State Department, the people in Crimea saw that there was a coup, a violent coup, and that Yanukovych had to flee. Okay, that's what they saw. Now, and by the way, Yanukovych, I don't know if you know this, but Yanukovych didn't speak Ukrainian when he came in. Did you know that? He didn't speak Ukrainian. He spoke Russian.
So why the hell is a guy who can't speak Ukrainian the president of Ukraine?
I'll tell you why, because he was voted in. And the reason he was voted in was after the Orange Revolution and after they put in Yushchenko, right, which is what happened. So they had the Orange Revolution, which followed the breakup of the Soviet Union. Yushchenko came in, and Yushchenko became quickly hated by people. Okay? Then Yanukovych came in. Yanukovych came in.
Remind me, which is the guy that was poisoned?
Well, the guy who's allegedly poisoned was Yushchenko.
Look at his face.
I've seen his face. I'm saying I don't know what happened, but let's just, I'm being clear. In 2013, 2014, there's the Euromaidan, and people in Crimea who are ethnically Russian are afraid. And the reason they're afraid is because of Right Sector, because of Spadova, because of these other people.
So it's okay, but these ethnic Russians, they're citizens of Ukraine, right?
Well,
they're citizens.
No, wait a second. They thought they were, but suddenly there's a coup in Kiev. So what happens is, let's say you've got, let's say there's a coup in Washington, and they overthrow Trump. People who are Trump supporters in, I don't know, pick a state that's going to be pro-Trump. I'll go with Georgia. Or like, well, wait a minute. They just overthrew the legitimate government there. Whoa, watch out. We don't want to be part of this new government.
So you're going to invite...
The U.S. No, they were already... The troops were... Wait,
well, no.
The troops were already there, right? So there was no invasion. The troops were there. There were 25,000... How many people were killed in this invasion? Let me ask you
the same question I just asked you, then.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how many troops we have in Saudi Arabia. I don't know the number.
I don't know.
But what if, for a similar reason, I can't think of a parallel narrative.
Let's say there's
makes sense, but
there's a coup. Let's say, I'll give you one. There's a coup. Let's say there's a coup in Saudi Arabia, and then people who've taken over are like, we're going to kill every effing American we can find. Now that's because, by the way, that's what it said. I can show you it to you.
Not Americans. Like I don't know. Like, but what if, for whatever reason, you had the American troops that are stationed in Saudi Arabia? They were driving around the streets of Riyadh in trucks and in tanks and in Bradleys for, and these American troops who normally were stationed there for whatever purpose are patrolling the streets of Riyadh, and MBS says we're going to have a referendum and the people of Saudi Arabia are going to vote on whether I can stay king.
But
these American
that's not what the vote was. The vote was, again, you got to understand the history. Crimea.
But the vote took place while these troops were driving around.
No, but yes. Why were the troops driving around? Because
it doesn't matter while they're driving around.
Well, you say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
why.
Because it was just a violent coup.
If there are armed troops driving around, armed Russian troops.
Why?
It's not a free and fair election when there are armed troops from another country driving around.
That's not true, because there's armed troops driving around countries all the time. What's not...
How had peacekeepers or from another
justify
country?
The violent coup that overthrew the government in Kiev. It was a violent coup that the CIA backed.
We're not talking about the coup.
Do you think the United States government should? Do you think the United States government should overthrow foreign powers? Do you think the United States government should have overthrown the government of Ukraine and forced it out?
It's irrelevant to this discussion.
To hear the actual story that the U.S. was clearly involved in a coup in the Ukraine. See, because you're taking... Here's what you're taking. You're taking the U.S. establishment media side. And I'm saying anybody listening...
And you're taking the Kremlin side.
No, I'm not taking the Kremlin side. I've looked it up. I've done the research. I've heard the call with Victoria Nuland. I see who they're supporting. I see who they're backing. I see what happened objectively. It's provable. This is not a matter of conjecture. Nothing I'm saying. Hormatska TV, I've looked up their funding. It's the State Department funding it. Soros has bragged about funding this stuff.
Incidentally, I haven't kept changing my
fair election. I wouldn't be working for Sputnik. And by the way, and they treat me great and everything else. If I don't understand why you were working there. I either would have researched it to go, gee, this is troubling, and I would have stayed or I would have left. But I don't understand how you stayed there if you feel as adamantly as you do.
Well,
Did your opinion change, or have you always felt this way?
I always felt it was bullshit from the first day I went there. But, Lee, I was promised, and you didn't interview with the same guy I did, so you weren't there.
No.
I was promised editorial independence. I was promised I could tell all sides of the story. I was promised these things. Those promises, as time went on, crossed off that, no, crossed off that, no, crossed off that, no. And by middle of April, I was already looking for another job. I got to eat, though, so,
I know, but I quit job.
Do that.
I can't afford to do it. I don't have any special magic power here. I just have editorial integrity. And if someone was trying to get me to say something that I adamantly believed wasn't true, my reputation as a journalist.
Except, Lee, you and I both know that, as I've said several times, it is technically true. It is technically true that 90% of voters voted in that referendum to join. And you know what? I put in the whole story. It got taken out.
But it's not technically true. But again, if you felt so strongly that this was a forced at gunpoint election, which is clearly not true, when you look at the situation in Crimea, and it's not just based on that, it's based on the history of the region. You've got ethnic Ukrainians.
I don't care about that. I care about the troops in the streets while people are voting.
Yeah, but
it invalidates the result.
No, it doesn't invalidate the result.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. No, because the troops were there.
How many times have you talked about? You and others on the right talked about the new Black Panther Party guys intimidating voters with the nightsticks.
There was. Do we agree there?
There wouldn't have been a referendum if Russian troops weren't driving around the streets saying we're going to vote.
No. If there had not been the Euromaidan revolution, there would have been no need for a referendum. There would have been no problem whatsoever. And by the way, here's where I agree with you. Let's say they had a democratic vote, and Yanukovych, rather than being thrown out in a violent coup that was backed by the United States, the CIA, John McCain, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, let's say he'd been voted out, and the Russians didn't like the result of that referendum, and then had done something in Crimea, I'd be with you on that. But that's not what happened. You can't ignore the Euromaidan revolution, and you want to do that. But let me ask you about this, because I do know you got to go, and it's.
No, I'm not immediately. I still got some time. I'm just texting. I'm still asking.
So let me ask you this. So the FBI, and this is what I'm confused about on the FBI thing, because this is a big deal to me.
They called me.
Okay, so they called you, and then what happened? How were you contacted by Yahoo? Well, let me ask you this. When you were interviewed by the FBI, because I've been interviewed by the FBI before, and by the way, I went to them, and it was about the Steubenville rape case that Cassandra and I both worked on. They asked me to not talk about it at the time. Did the FBI ask you, when you interviewed with them?
They asked me to not write about it.
So they said you could talk about it but not write about it. Is that the way you
credibility? Because then you're not a witness or a participant. If you're writing the story.
Did you think the FBI wanted you to talk to reporters like Michael Isikoff about it? If they told you. So the FBI tells you, don't write about this?
They were going to run the story whether I talked to them or not.
Well, how did Yahoo get the story?
I don't know. I don't know what his sources are, but hold on. Let me answer your question.
Well, did they get it from you?
No.
Okay.
Let me answer your question.
Right.
The FBI called me. Today's Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Wednesday. Two Wednesdays. The last Wednesday in August.
That was after you'd done your Politico article?
Yes.
Okay, so you did the article in Politico?
Yes. And I got a call, ring, ring, hello, Mr. Feinberg, this is blank from I'm a special agent with the FBI.
That's not their name, right? Their name's not blank.
No.
I'm just asking. I knew a guy named blank, so it could
be.
Ours is blank.
So, asked me to come in. I said, fine, I'll come in. I went in. I talked to them for several hours. I turned over a bunch of stuff, and I left. A couple days later, I got a call from Hunter Walker. Hunter knows me from the White House. He called me. He said,
"That'll be fun when I'm in the White House with Hunter again." I was just calling him a dumb. Oh, he's lying, but anyway.
Not once.
I don't want to get into it. This guy who's a Ukrainian Hillary Clinton advisor said, "Oh, gee, you're under investigation by the FBI," and I said, "No one contacted."
It's Sputnik's under investigation, but that's
no, I know, and I said, "No one."
It's a decision without a difference.
And I said, "No one at Sputnik has been contacted by the FBI." I didn't say by the FBI, but the next sentence makes it clear. Right. And so Hunter said, "Oh, I'm going to prove him wrong," and all he proved was that he'd contacted Sputnik, which I never denied. But anyway.
Right. So anyway, a couple of days later, I got a call from Hunter. He asked. They already knew the whole story. They knew I'd already been in there. They knew I'd talked to people. They knew what I'd talked about. They knew Sputnik was under investigation for FARA violations.
I'm curious how they know that.
I mean, did you talk to a lot of people about the FBI thing?
No.
I mean, just
outside my immediate family.
Anybody?
No one that would travel in an orbit that Hunter travels in.
So basically, he had details that only could have come from a leak from the FBI.
I don't know. I don't know who.
Can you think of any other logical way?
Well, my understanding is it was the other guy's source, but I don't.
But how would they know what you talked about?
I don't care who it came from.
Well, but I think the American people do, because if here, let me explain why. If this is a serious issue, because this is a big issue, right? You know why they wouldn't. You know why the FBI wouldn't want you to talk, right?
Well, this isn't the kind of investigation where if it gets found out there's an investigation, it could go south.
No. Let me explain why. Let me explain